Hi there, welcome to Frames TM. So today I'm going to talk about what Nikon thinks about its future. So before I get into Nikon's conversations on video, let's talk about what some Chinese internet users have been talking about when it comes to Z8. Now, there's this rumor they said that a lot of Chinese users they have information that the Z8 is going to be what we have been thinking the Z8 is going to be, which is wow. So it is in line with the thinking so far. It is going to be a mini Z9, and I have been saying that mini Z9 means broadly the same specification, same, of course, the same processor. But the question was about whether it is going to have a DFT type of body, class of body. Number one, and number two, whether the Z8 will have the same sensor as the Z9, which means a stack sensor, which means a 45.6 megapixel or 7 megapixels sensor, and which means the potential for a camera with another camera from Nikon without a shutter, which is exciting. Now, the question here is why can it be? Okay. The question here is, can it be a body which is about $3,500 US? Like Vagan posted a video a few days back where he talked about the surprise pricing of the Z8 and the fact that it's not going to be a $4,500 US camera. It's not going to be a $4,000 US camera. It's going to be somewhere between 35 to 36, 37 US camera. It's going to be surprisingly affordable, and it's going to therefore Nikon is going to take the same strategy that they took when they launched the Z9. People were assuming that it was going to be the Z9 was going to be a $6,500 US camera, but it turned out to be a $5,500, $1,000 less, including the grip. Now that was really disruptive to give you so much within that price point. For the Z9, almost 2 years, okay, 1.5 years back. That was something. Now, since then, the Z9 camera that camera has been selling very well, and because Z9 has been selling so well, we can fairly easily say that Nikon is going to enjoy a certain amount of economy of scale because they bought significant amount of parts for the Z9. Now, we have to also remember almost 20 months have passed, right? Which means that the technology that was new, and let's say it was priced at 100 20 months back, when Nikon buys it at a large quantity, and 20 months later, it's certainly going to come down in price. So it's going to be $70, for example. If it was at 100, it's going to come down at 70 in terms of the cost for those parts. And these are hypothetical numbers, of course. But I'm saying it's going to come down in price. So the costing, the sourcing cost, material cost for Nikon is going to come down. So if that is the case, then it is not difficult to imagine a Z8 which is very closely built to the Z9, offering very similar capability to the Z9, but being priced somewhere between 34 to 3,700 US, and that is exciting pricing, and that's disruptive, to be honest. The only question is, where should the Z7 III go? Should the Z7 III even exist? I think it should, and I think there can be two cameras, the Z8 and the Z7 III. Both can be priced similarly, but they can both cater to very different sort of mindsets, use cases, and different kinds of people, right? So I think it is quite possible that Nikon could be pricing them similarly, but can be making very different cameras out of them. What about a Z6 III? I think the Z6 III is supposed to be a camera which is a do-it-all camera for the entry-level professionals, prosumers, enthusiasts, and just the general lovers of photography who want a great full-frame camera. Now, also travelers, right? Now, the Z6 III should offer somewhere between 33 to 38 megapixel sensor, fast sensor, but should be priced somewhere between 2200 to 2500, but not more than that. And it has to very ably compete with the R6 Mark II and the A7 IV. So in order for Nikon to do that, they have to also increase the megapixel count, like I said, 33 to 38 megapixels. Now, megapixels. But the issue is, if it is already 33 megapixels minimum, and you have a 45 megapixel sensor or 46 megapixel sensor in Z9 and then on Z8, can the Z7 Mark III afford to be another 40 something megapixel camera? I don't think it can. So I think that camera will compete with the A7R5 directly and be a photo camera, being somewhere $3,800 US, even $3,500 US, but 60 something megapixel camera and photo first camera. So I think that's the whole construct now. But in that context, what is very interesting is that to understand Nikon's recent interview where they talked about video, and apparently video was mentioned some 19 times in that article. It's completely my opinion, you can differ with me. I think a good video camera is not made by one camera. A good video camera is made by having a very good video system. It means lenses that don't sort of, which are well balanced, because you have to mount the whole system on a gimbal, for example. It means cameras, all of which produce similar kind of files so that you can match the color. And when you edit them on a timeline, you don't have to edit the clips separately, right? Because they all work together very well, which means that you need video focused lenses, power zooms, for example. And Nikon have been working on the power zoom for the DX Z30 and Z50, the I think 12 to 18. Now I think that's a very critical lens for Nikon to launch, and I want Nikon to launch that lens before anything else. I think that and the 35mm 1.2, these should be the priorities. In fact, it's at this point it's difficult to sort of say, oh, this one can come later. I think all three, 200 to 600, 35 1.2, and the PZ power zoom 12 to 18 DX lens, these are all very important components. Now, the power zoom is important because you have launched the Z30, but you do not have a wide angle lens, and you need to provide a camera, potentially a pro video camera, between $1,200 and $1,500 US, and give it all the video specs. Just throw everything at it. Give them good lenses, right? There's some third-party lens manufacturers who are supporting Nikon very well, for example, Viltrox. But add in your own lenses to the mix and ensure that you have a good entry-level professional video camera line ready. Because when you're entering in the video business, video photo camera game, you don't expect to get the top-notch professionals from the get-go. You have to build up your reputation, and the way to build it up is to attract a bunch of young customers, young content creators. How to do that? Yes, Z30 is a good first attempt, but the way to do that is to ensure that you offer the larger market something to try, but professional grade, okay? Something like an FX30, but cheaper. So you give them a couple of lenses that are like very useful. You give them a camera that's solid, well built, and then at the same time has very good focused video features, right? You have to hit that price point. Now you can also hit that price point with R8 competitor with a Z5 Mark II. Just add in the IBIS, have the new processor, have 10-bit 422. It's fine if it's only 4K 60 and cropped. It's fine, but it is important to play that price segment, okay? And do very good video features there. And then you add in the Z6 Mark III, right? Competing with the A7R4, and in fact, doing better than that and competing with the Panasonic S5 and the Fuji cameras, also the Canon R6 Mark II. Now, when you have one product at $1,200 or $1,500 and then one at between $2,000 and $2.5K US, Then you have a credible beginner line. You already have covered the sort of top end with Z9, but then that camera is not easy to do video with. You need a massive rig to do that, and that's almost like a cinematographer's camera, not really serious content creator's camera, not a documentary camera. The Z8 can play that role. Let the Z8 play that role. Let it take about 99% of the capabilities from the Z9 when it comes to video, but then make the package such that independent production houses can actually manage that, right? And give them a Z6 III to sort of support that Z9. Give them a Z90, Z70 within 1600 US dollars to support that, and make them video focused. Really, I think Matt Irwin makes a great point when he talks about the role of DX in the photo lineup, because I think the Z9 cropped does all the job, right? It does the job, unless you're really looking for a camera within that sort of really below 2000 US dollar price point, which is all right. But then that camera should essentially target the video makers first, and it should do adequate stuff for photo journalists and bird shooters and sports shooters. So the first part is how do you segment it. The second part is you've already got great lenses, really great lenses that do not focus breathe, do not make any noise while focusing. So it seems like the mount is ready, right? So there are only a few things that remain to be done. How well can you monitor exposure and color while shooting video outdoors? That's important. How well does the lenses respond when it comes to manual focus input? Because these are focus by wire lenses. All these lenses are focus by wire lenses. Tweak them well enough so that they become consistent whenever used manually. Possibly partner with some third-party lens manufacturers who will make great lenses for video makers. These are the few things that are important. The last thing I think is very critical is for Nikon to do very well in video is to really crack its IBIS. Now, for photo, the Z series IBIS is fantastic. But you know what happens? When I'm panning and shooting a video, not the Z9, the rest of the cameras, the IBIS kind of fights my lateral movement. It thinks that I'm moving, this is shake. I'm not sure. The camera has to adjust for my vertical shake when I'm moving this way, right? But it also tries to fight my movement laterally, left to right, right to left. Although it has better stabilization capability than the Sony cameras are better. They have a smarter IBIS system. So they won't fight your movement. The Sony cameras will not fight your movement. It knows what you're trying to do. And therefore, you get a slightly better, less jittery footage out of the Sony cameras. And I think that, and Panasonic, of course, has done, oh my God, have you seen the S5 Mark II footages? It just clips, it's just amazing. It's magic. So I think there you go. These are the few things that Nikon needs to do. And I think I've already talked about what I mean, at this stage, we know that the Z8 is going to come out. We're just waiting for Nikon to make an announcement in the next few weeks, and expect Nikon to actually come out and say it finally, so that there are no one saying, I don't know whether Z8 is a reality or a myth. I think it's a myth. I think it's a reality. I think it's a reality. It is supposed to be a D850 replacement, a baby Z9, and hit that price point and use most of the components from the Z9 and the capabilities on the Z9. So the whole world is waiting for you, Nikon, to drop the Z8 right now, and to introduce tremendous amount of capabilities when it comes to video. One more thing that I'm very excited about is what's going to happen with the 35 1.2, and Nikon should produce it quickly, not let Canon come in with their own 35 1.2. Right now, you're the only other system with an 85 1.2 and a 50 1.2. Now, you also have the Noct. No one has it. Now, if you right now introduce the 51.2, my god, this system becomes something else. There's only one other lens that does it. Is the Sigma 35 1.2. I'm talking about the 35 1.2 here. The Sigma 35 1.2, and it's available, I think, for the L mount and for the E mount from Sony. So it's an opportunity for to differentiate, and Nikon should not delay it. Nikon should just come out with it quickly. I think if I have to prioritize the 35 1.2 and the 12 to 18 power zoom for DX cameras, these should be the priority lenses to be launched very quickly in the next, I'm not talking in terms of months, I'm talking in terms of days, in the next 20 to 50 days, let's say. That's the timeline. And then you have a huge advantage over the rest. Okay. But yes, having said that, the 35 1.2 will have to match a brief. It's a special kind of lens. It's going to attract a special kind of audience with special use cases. I'm going to do a video on what I expect the 35 1.2 to be. So watch out for that. And do share your opinions on how Nikon can become a better video system. I don't think it's a matter of producing a great video camera. I think it's about becoming a system. For example, look at Sony's post stabilization in post processing, that software, the Catalyst Browse software. Look at the monitoring capabilities on Panasonic cameras. Those things matter. It's about how many log profiles you create, how many LUTs you offer the market. It's about those supports. How many other people, creators, third-party people coming out there and creating LUTs for you, right? Talking about your video, creating content with it, and not just vlogs. They are not good enough. Serious filmmaking projects, serious passion projects. If you see people doing that, if you see someone like a Sam Newton making his next music video with a Nikon camera, moving on from that Nikon is a potato camera brand sort of mindset. That's what you call success. That's what success would look like, right? So I think it's an ecosystem. It's not about one camera. It's not about a few cameras. It's about providing an ecosystem to work with, right? Yeah. So that's about it. I'm going to see you very soon with another one, and watch out for the 35 1.2 and another review, another detailed look at the 85 1.2 very soon. See you.